Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva is known for boundless compassion, rescuing those in suffering and hardship. Since ancient times, people have believed in calling out to Amitabha Buddha and invoking Avalokitesvara's name. They pray with heartfelt devotion, hoping the Bodhisattva will protect their families and grant them peace. Yet some find themselves puzzled when, despite their sincerity, they continue to face misfortune. In a remote little town lived an elderly devotee named Zhang Shanyuan, well over 70 years old. He had believed in Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva since his youth and had never missed a single day of bowing and reciting sutras. He was convinced that as long as he remained devoted, his family would be safeguarded. However, despite his deep faith, a series of troubles befell them, one after another. The previous year, his youngest son fell seriously ill, nearly depleting the family savings, and not long after, his wife slipped and injured her leg, leaving her unable to move around freely. Although Zhang Shenyin tried to stay positive, these events weighed heavily on his heart. He began to wonder if it was his lack of sincerity, or perhaps the Bodhisattva had not heard his prayers. One early morning, while looking at the statue of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva on the household altar in a corner of his living room, he felt a growing sense of bewilderment. He carefully dusted the statue and recited his usual prayers, but instead of relief, he felt his heart growing heavier. He didn't dare voice these doubts to anyone, fearing he would be seen as irreverent. Eventually, on a bright, sunny afternoon full of questions, he made his way slowly on a cane to the town's ancient temple. Standing among many worshippers in front of a majestic statue of Avalokiteshvara, he felt a glimmer of hope. After bowing in earnest, he realized that only a true spiritual teacher could address his concerns. So he gathered his courage and approached an elderly monk with a kind demeanor. This monk, named Mingwu, had been practicing for over 60 years and was the temple's abbot. Master, Zhang Shenyan began respectfully, hands together. I have a question I cannot resolve. May I ask for your guidance? Certainly, came the gentle reply. Kneeling on a meditation cushion, Zhang Shenyan explained the doubts that had plagued him for many years. He spoke of how, for over 2 decades, he had faithfully worshipped Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva at home, bowing every morning and evening, never missing a day, and making special offerings on the 1st and 15th of each month. He had always believed the Bodhisattva would watch over his family and bring them safety, yet misfortunes kept arising. His youngest son had fallen ill, his wife had been injured, and peace at home seemed ever more distant. He could not understand why adversity persisted when he was so devoted. When he finished, the old monk closed his eyes in thought, then asked calmly, "How exactly is the statue placed in your home?" Zhang Shenyan described his arrangement in detail. He kept the Bodhisattva's statue in a quiet corner of the living room so it wouldn't be disturbed. To enhance its dignity, he placed a mirror in front of it so the statue appeared brighter. He burned incense continuously, letting ashes build up, believing this showed his respect. He also offered as many fruits as he could manage, certain this displayed sincerity. After listening patiently, the old monk smiled and pointed toward the main hall's large statue. You have undoubtedly shown devotion every day, and the Bodhisattva is aware of your sincerity. But worship is not simply about form, it must also be done correctly. If the method is unsuitable, it can have the opposite effect. Did you know there are many details to keep in mind when setting up and tending a home altar? The location of the statue, the types of offerings, and even how incense is burned can all affect the blessings you hope to receive. Stunned, Zhang Shenyan asked respectfully, "Please, show me the right way." The monk gave a small nod and led him toward the main hall. As they walked, he said, "Since you have come here with questions today, I will explain in detail the things you must avoid and the methods you should follow when offering worship at home. Remember, the teachings are present everywhere. Honoring the Bodhisattva is also a spiritual practice, requiring reverence, wisdom, and respect for proper guidelines if you wish to experience a response." Following the monk, heart filled with both anticipation and anxiety, Zhang Shenyan sensed that today's teachings might finally resolve the confusion that had troubled him for years. They stopped in front of a towering statue of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, whose face radiated compassion. Soft light streamed through the temple's colored glass windows, illuminating the curling incense smoke and filling the hall with a solemn yet serene atmosphere. Zhongshenyan paused for a moment, quietly marveling at the bodhisattva's peaceful presence. The old monk smiled and said, "Look around you. Every aspect of this arrangement follows the principles of the teachings. It is done in a way that honors the sacred and preserves a sense of tranquility. While you have been devout in your home, placing a statue in the corner or next to anything unclean like the kitchen or restroom can be disrespectful and diminish the bodhisattva's protective blessings. Also, the statue should never face a mirror because the mirror reflects impure images and disturbs the sacred atmosphere. This is an important point in your home setup." Hearing this, Zhang Shenyan felt regret. He admitted he had thought the mirror would add to the statue's dignity, never realizing the hidden consequences. Is there anything else I should watch out for when choosing where to put the statue? The old monk explained further that the statue is ideally placed in the northwest area of a home, sometimes referred to as an auspicious location, facing southeast, symbolizing the direction of daylight and blessings. Good ventilation and soft lighting are also important. It should not face a bed, a television, or directly align with the main entrance to preserve its dignity. Such details might seem minor, but they can greatly affect the energy of a worship space. Nodding earnestly, Zhang Shengyan tried to commit all this to memory. The monk then guided him closer to the altar and pointed to the offering table. Offerings must be chosen with the right intention, not simply quantity. Fruits should be fresh and free of defects. Meat or alcohol should never be used as offerings, as that would be a serious breach of respect. Flowers should be clean and free of thorns, as thorns represent obstacles and should not be placed in a sacred space. At these words, Zhang Shenyan recalled a time when, in a hurry, he had placed a basket of slightly damaged fruit before the statue. He felt a surge of guilt. "What about incense?" he asked. "I've always kept incense burning in the censer to show my devotion." The old monk shook his head gently. Burning incense is indeed a sign of respect, but everything must be in moderation. One stick of incense per day is enough to create a gentle fragrance. Too much smoke can damage the statue and harm your family's health. True devotion does not lie in constant smoke, but in purity of heart. Seeing that Zhang Shenyan was beginning to grasp the meaning, the old monk told him an old story about a wealthy merchant who worshipped Avalokitesvara by offering extravagant feasts and lighting hundreds of sticks of incense daily. Despite his grandeur, his fortune declined, and discord plagued his family. Puzzled, he asked a wise teacher for help and was advised that worship is not about lavishness but about genuine reverence and simplicity. After changing his approach, offering just a single stick of incense and a cup of pure water, the merchant's luck improved and harmony was restored. Reminded of his own situation at home, Zhang Shangyan let out a quiet sigh of realization. "I see now that my understanding of worship has been misguided, focused too much on the external and not enough on proper form." The old monk continued, "There is another point many overlook: the best time to offer your prayers. Around midday, typically between late morning and early afternoon, is an ideal time. Deep night, especially around midnight, is associated with heavier, darker energy. Offering prayers at that hour can be counterproductive. Also, be sure to dress neatly, avoid slippers or shorts, and never come before the altar when you are unclean or under the influence of alcohol." Embarrassed, Zhang Shenyan admitted he had sometimes bowed late at night, even in casual homeware. He rose, respectfully bowed, and said, "Master, I understand now. My sincerity was there, but my methods were not aligned with true reverence. The Bodhisattva has always been compassionate, yet my own ignorance caused these oversights. From now on, I'll follow your instructions to properly rearrange my home altar." Smiling, the old monk replied, "Act on what you have learned. When you combine sincerity with correct practice, you will certainly feel the Bodhisattva's blessings. Remember, setting up an altar is not just a formality. It is an expression of our inner cultivation. Making the altar clean and dignified reflects the work we do in our own hearts." Grateful and inspired, Zhang Shenwen realized that these insights could change his life. He returned home and looked critically at his longtime setup. He had always believed the corner was a peaceful spot, but he now understood that placing the Bodhisattva's statue away from proper light and airflow might be hindering the harmony he sought. With deep respect and a hint of remorse, he gently touched the statue he had worshipped for so many years. Bodhisattva, he murmured, I acted out of ignorance before. I promise I'll fix everything now. Early the next day, he hired a carpenter to build a new altar using fine wood, carved with delicate lotus designs. He placed this altar in the northwest part of his home, where it would catch the gentle morning light and stay well ventilated. He carefully oriented the statue to face southeast, symbolizing the arrival of light and blessing. On the offering table, he removed excessive decorations, leaving only the essentials: two simple, beautifully crafted lotus lamps, one carved incense burner, and a clean white porcelain plate. He resolved to present only the freshest fruit and flowers each day, and to keep a cup of pure water ready for the Bodhisattva. No longer did he let incense smoke constantly billow around the altar. Instead, he offered just one stick at midday, believing the quiet fragrance was a truer sign of respect. Under this renewed arrangement, the altar radiated calm and clarity. The gentle glow of the morning sun fell upon the statue's compassionate features, and each time Zhang Shenyuan bowed, his mind felt light and serene. He sensed a shift within himself too, less concern with outward show, more focus on genuine reverence. Over time, he noticed subtle yet unmistakable improvements in his home. His youngest son, who had once been so gravely ill, recovered faster than any doctor had predicted, and his wife gradually healed from her fall, able to walk again. Family disputes lessened, replaced by a growing sense of unity. Even neighbors seemed more supportive, creating a warmer community around them. 3 months later, Zhang Shenyan returned to the temple to share what had happened. The moment he entered, the old monk recognized him and greeted him with a kind smile. I see from your expression that your household must be doing well, and the blessings are becoming visible. Overjoyed, Zhang Shenyan replied, Master, if it weren't for your guidance, I would still be lost. Since I corrected the way I worshipped, my family's situation has turned around. I am truly grateful for the compassion of the Bodhisattva. The old monk smiled gently. The blessings come not only from the Bodhisattva's grace, but also from your own realization. When sincerity is combined with proper practice, it creates a true connection that allows the Bodhisattva's compassion to be felt. What you have done is a perfect example of this principle. From that day forward, Zhang Shangyuan adhered strictly to the guidelines for honoring the Bodhisattva and often shared his experience with other devotees. He used his own story to show that genuine faith must be supported by an understanding of right practice. Gradually, people around him began to follow his example, rearranging their home altars to align with these principles and experiencing for themselves the blessings that come with sincere and proper worship. Reflecting on the confusion he once felt and the peaceful life he now led, Zhang Shanyan was filled with gratitude. He had come to realize that everything was not simply a matter of whether the Bodhisattva responded, but whether he himself had been practicing in a way that truly honored the sacred. In learning these lessons, he discovered what it means to worship in both heart and action, and that realization changed the course of his life.